Welcome back to the English Speak Up Academy. Today we're going to be talking about making English learning as effortless as scrolling through your favorite social media.
Yeah, we've all had that feeling where, you can spend hours on TikTok or Instagram, but cracking open a textbook, suddenly it's time to do laundry or something like that.
Right. It's
Mm.
just so easy to get sucked into those platforms.
They're designed that way.
Yeah, so what is it about social media that makes it so addictive?
I think part of it is the instant gratification. You get those little dopamine hits from notifications and likes,
It's like a reward for just scrolling.
and it keeps us coming back for more. But then there's also the endless content.
Right, there's always something new to see another video to watch.
And with our phones always in our pockets, it's just so easy to access.
So we've got instant rewards, endless content, and easy access. No wonder we can't put them down.
Um, but what if we could take that same power that makes social media so addictive and use it for English learning?
Instead of fighting against it.
Exactly.
That's a really cool idea. How could we do that?
Well, one way is to think about those instant rewards. We can recreate that dopamine rush in our English learning
Oh,
by celebrating every win, no matter how small.
I like that. So instead of being overwhelmed by this big goal of becoming fluent, you're breaking it down into smaller, more manageable achievements.
Exactly. And each time you reach one, you reward yourself.
Like what?
Anything that motivates you, maybe you learn 5 new words and then you take a break, watch a fun video, or have a snack.
Hmm. I guess that could work, but some people might struggle with self-discipline, wouldn't they? They might worry about giving themselves too many rewards.
That's true. So the key is finding healthy rewards that work for you, something that motivates you without derailing your progress.
So instead of a sugary treat, maybe it's a 5-minute break to play a game or a quick walk outside.
Something that feels like a genuine celebration, not a setback.
I see. So we tackled instant rewards, but what about that endless content problem? How can we make English as captivating as those social media feeds?
Well, we can take inspiration from the format. Think about those short, engaging snippets that keep you scrolling.
And find English content that's designed the same way.
Right, there are tons of creators on YouTube and Instagram making bite-sized English lessons.
So like those quick videos explaining grammar points or introducing new vocabulary?
Yeah, or even breaking down slang terms. And you can also subscribe to podcasts or newsletters that deliver daily English tips.
So it's all about integrating English into your usual digital routine, making it a natural part of your day, not something separate that you dread.
And that plays into the easy access part. Instead of your textbook being hidden away, make English learning resources as accessible as those tempting apps.
Put your language learning app right next to your social media app,
Exactly.
kind of like fighting fire with fire.
That's the idea. If it's just as easy to open Duolingo as it is to open Instagram, you're much more likely to engage with it, even if it's just for a few minutes.
So it's all about reducing the friction, making it as effortless as possible. I love it.
And this is just the beginning. There are even more techniques we can explore to turn English learning into a truly effortless habit. So we've talked about incorporating those quick wins into your learning and also making English easily accessible.
And surrounding ourselves with engaging content that can compete with our social media feeds for our attention.
Right now, let's move on to how we can build a sustainable English learning routine without having to rely so much on willpower.
Because willpower can be a little unreliable sometimes.
Yeah, it can be fleeting. Instead, we can try using a technique called the 2-minute rule.
Okay, I've heard of that before.
Yeah.
I think it has something to do with tricking your brain into starting a task.
You got it. Our brains tend to resist big, overwhelming tasks.
Right.
But small, manageable chunks, those feel much less intimidating.
So like instead of telling yourself, I'm going to study English for an hour today,
Yeah.
say,
I'm just going to listen to an English podcast for 2 minutes.
yeah.
The initial commitment is so tiny, it almost seems silly not to do it.
And often those 2 minutes turn into 10 or 20, and suddenly you're reeling into it.
Exactly. By lowering that barrier to entry, you get your brain started, and the momentum builds from there.
It's a great way to overcome procrastination.
We can also think about transforming the time we already spend on social media into learning opportunities.
Instead of fighting the urge to scroll, we can use it to our advantage.
That's right. Think about all that time you spend scrolling through your feed. What if you could make it serve a dual purpose?
I'm a big fan of multitasking.
One really simple change you can make is switching your phone's language to English.
Oh, that's a good one. I'm on my phone all the time, so I'd be seeing English everywhere.
And while you're at it, why not watch videos with English subtitles?
I sometimes do that with music videos. It helps me understand slang and colloquialisms.
It makes the experience more interactive. You're actively engaging with the language, not just passively consuming it.
And it makes watching those videos even more fun. It's like getting a free language lesson.
You could also join online communities like English-speaking groups on Facebook or Reddit.
Yeah, those groups can provide a really immersive experience.
You're surrounded by English learners and native speakers alike. It's a great way to practice writing, ask questions, get feedback, and have actual conversations.
It sounds like a really supportive and fun way to learn.
To really solidify these habits, we can also borrow a page from social media's playbook and use something called gamification.
You mean like those streaks, badges, and challenges that keep us coming back for more?
That's it. They tap into our natural desire for rewards and motivation. And we can apply those same principles to our English learning.
So how do we gamify our language learning?
One way is to make your progress visual and rewarding. Track your progress using a calendar, a habit tracking app, or even just a journal.
I love tracking my progress visually. It's so satisfying to check things off a list or fill in a chart.
It gives you a sense of accomplishment and keeps you motivated. You can also set yourself daily challenges, small goals that make learning feel like a game.
What kind of challenges?
Something like use 3 new English words in a sentence today, or watch one English language YouTube video with subtitles.
Those are good ones. They're specific, achievable, and they add an element of fun to the routine.
And remember, the key here is consistency. Small actions repeated over time lead to big results.
So it's all about turning those small actions into habits. That's how we bridge the gap between casual learning and fluency.
Now let's switch gears for a moment and have some fun with some of the vocabulary we've been using today.
Oh, I like that. I'm always up for expanding my vocabulary.
We've been talking about words like gamify, immersion, engaging, and interactive. Let's take a closer look at these words and see how they can be used in everyday English.
So let's start with gamify. We were talking about making language learning more like a game.
Right, so you could say something like, I gamify my English learning by setting daily challenges and tracking my progress on a chart.
So you're adding those game-like elements to make it more fun and engaging.
Exactly. And then we have immersion, which is all about surrounding yourself with the language as much as possible.
Like you're diving into an English-speaking world.
You can create that kind of immersive environment at home, too.
So for example, I'm trying to improve my listening comprehension through immersion by watching English movies without subtitles.
That's a great example. It really forces you to pay attention and get used to the natural rhythm of the language.
Okay, so next up we have engaging, which means something that captures your attention and holds your interest.
When something is engaging, you're completely absorbed in it.
And luckily, there are tons of engaging resources out there for English learners.
Like podcasts, for example. I find English learning podcasts really engaging because the hosts are funny and the topics are interesting.
It's like you're part of a conversation.
Exactly. And finally, we have interactive, which implies a two-way exchange of information.
So it's more active than passive learning.
Right, you could say something like, I want to improve my speaking skills interactively, so I'm joining a language exchange group.
Where you can practice speaking with other learners and native speakers.
And that kind of interaction is so valuable for building confidence and fluency.
So learning these words and understanding their nuances can really help you express yourself more effectively when talking about your English learning journey.
And we've covered so many great techniques today.
Yeah, from celebrating those small wins to gamifying our progress and transforming our social media time into learning opportunities.
It's all about making English learning a more natural and integrated part of our lives.
And we hope this has inspired you to think about the ways you can make English learning more effortless and enjoyable for yourself.
So what's one English habit you're inspired to build after today?
Maybe it's changing your phone's language to English, or subscribing to a new English learning podcast, or joining an online community of English speakers.
Whatever it is, take that first step and remember that consistent small actions lead to big results.
That's all for this episode of the English Speak Up Academy. Thanks for joining us.
And happy learning, everyone.